The cold was the first thing Jake Morrison felt as his body slowly warmed up from the long sleep. His eyes opened to see a bright white ceiling above him. The cryogenic pod made soft humming sounds as it finished its wake-up process. Jake tried to move his fingers. They felt stiff and strange after so many years of being frozen. "Welcome back, Captain Morrison," said a gentle voice. Jake turned his head and saw a woman's face on the screen next to his pod. She had kind blue eyes and brown hair. "I am Dr. Lisa Harper, or rather what remains of her consciousness in the ship's computer system." Jake's throat felt dry when he tried to speak. "How long?" he whispered. 500,000 years, Jake. You have been asleep for 500,000 years. The numbers hit Jake like a physical blow. 500,000 years. Everyone he had known before the journey was long dead. Earth itself was probably just a memory now. He sat up slowly in his pod, his muscles protesting after the longest sleep in human history. "The mission," Jake said, his voice getting stronger. "Tell me about the mission." Dr. Harper's face on the screen looked sad. "Earth is gone, Jake. The Galactic Council destroyed it completely in the year 2387. They used massive ships to bomb our home planet until nothing was left but broken rocks. Floating in space, Jake closed his eyes and felt the old anger rise in his chest. He remembered that terrible day when the alien ships appeared in Earth's sky. The Council had sent their demands. Humanity must surrender and become slaves to the galactic government. They would lose their freedom, their independence, everything that made them human. Earth's leaders had refused. "How many of us escaped?" Jake asked. 47 ships got away from Earth before the bombardment began. Each ship carried between 5 and 15 million humans. We don't know how many survived the journey to find new homes. Jake stepped out of his cryogenic pod. His legs felt weak, but they held his weight. Around him, he could see thousands of other pods in the vast chamber. Some were opening, releasing their sleeping passengers. Others remained closed and dark. "Our ship carried 12 million humans when we left Earth," Dr. Harper continued. "During the journey, people lived, worked, had children, and died. Entire generations were born on this ship. They lived their whole lives knowing they would never see the end of our mission." "How many are awake now?" Jake asked as he put on the simple clothes that had been left for him. "About 50,000 crew members are being awakened for the final phase. The rest of our population, nearly 10 million people, remain in deep sleep until we need them." Jake walked through the corridors of the massive ship called New Horizon. The walls were made of a strange metal that seemed to glow with its own light. Everything looked different from the ship he remembered boarding 500,000 years ago. The technology had advanced dramatically during their journey. He found Commander Amy Roberts in the ship's command center. She was a tall woman with short black hair and sharp green eyes. Amy had been one of Earth's best military officers before the evacuation. Like Jake, she had volunteered for the longest sleep so she could see the mission's end. "Good to see you. Awake, Jake," Amy said with a smile that didn't hide the hardness in her eyes. "Are you ready to see what we've become?" Amy led Jake to a large window that showed the stars outside. But these weren't the same stars Jake remembered. The ship had traveled so far that none of the constellations looked familiar. "Our scientists have been busy during the journey," Amy explained. "Dr. Ben Clark's team made incredible discoveries. We're not the same humans who left Earth." She pressed a button, and Jake watched in amazement as Amy's hand began to glow with a soft blue light. Her fingers moved faster than human eyes could follow, and she lifted a heavy metal table with one hand, as if it weighed nothing. "We merged our biology with advanced technology," Amy said. "Our lifespans are now thousands of years. We're stronger, faster, and smarter than the humans who lived on Earth. Every person on this ship has these abilities." Jake looked at his own hands. He could feel something different in his body, like electricity flowing through his blood. When he concentrated, his vision became incredibly sharp. He could see tiny details on Amy's face from across the room. "The children born during our journey were raised with one purpose," Amy continued. "They learned about Earth, about the species that destroyed our home, and about our mission of revenge. Every generation passed the story to the next. The hatred never died." Dr. Ben Clark joined them in the command center. He was a small man with gray hair and tired eyes. His hands shook slightly as he spoke, but his voice was strong. "We've created weapons that the Galactic Council has never seen," Ben said. "Our ships can move through space in ways that break their understanding of physics. Our soldiers can interface directly with any computer system. We can turn their own technology against them." Jake felt a chill run down his spine. "What exactly are we planning to do?" Amy pulled up a holographic map that showed their current location. "We're at the edge of what used to be our solar system. The aliens now call it Nexus Prime. They've turned Earth into their capital city." The map zoomed in to show a planet that Jake barely recognized. Where Earth used to be green and blue with white clouds, now there was a gray and silver world covered in alien buildings. Massive space stations orbited around it like artificial moons. "They built their government center on the grave of our world," Amy said, her voice filled with cold anger. "Every day, billions of aliens walk on the bones of our ancestors." Dr. Harper's voice came from speakers around the room. "The three species that led Earth's destruction are still in power. The Zephyrians, the Kalathi, and the Nethrim control the Galactic Council. They've convinced hundreds of other species to join them, creating the largest government in galactic history." Jake studied the tactical information that appeared on the screens around him. The Council controlled thousands of star systems. Their military had ships that could destroy entire planets. The odds seemed impossible. "How can we fight all of that?" Jake asked. Amy smiled, and this time it was a real smile, full of confidence and deadly promise. "Because we're not the same species that left Earth 500,000 years ago. We've evolved beyond what they think is possible. They remember humans as a weak species that could barely leave their own planet." She gestured to the screens showing their ship's interior. Jake could see massive weapon systems, laboratories full of advanced technology, and training areas where enhanced humans practiced combat techniques that looked almost like magic. "They have no idea what we've become," Amy said. "For 500,000 years, every human on this ship has lived for one moment. The moment when we return to reclaim our birthright." Jake felt the weight of 500,000 years of preparation settling on his shoulders. Around him, the ship hummed with the power of technology that hadn't existed when Earth was destroyed. In the corridors, enhanced humans moved with purpose, their eyes filled with the same cold determination he saw in Amy's face. "When do we begin?" Jake asked. Amy looked out at the stars where Earth used to shine. "The Council is holding their Grand Assembly next month. Representatives from every member species will gather on Nexus Prime to celebrate 500,000 years of galactic peace." She turned back to Jake, her green eyes blazing with anticipation. "It's time to remind the galaxy that humanity never forgot, never forgave, and never stopped coming home." The ship's engines began to change their deep humming sound. After drifting through space for 500,000 years, New Horizon was finally approaching its destination. The long sleep was over. The mission of revenge was about to begin. 2 weeks after Jake Morrison woke up from his long sleep, the New Horizon reached the outer edge of what used to be humanity's home solar system. The ship moved silently through space, hidden by advanced technology that made it invisible to alien sensors. Lieutenant Colonel Steve Patterson stood in the launch bay checking his equipment one final time. He was a lean man with dark skin and careful eyes that missed nothing. Steve had been born on the ship during the long journey, but he had studied Earth's history since he was a child. Today, he would be the first human in 500,000 years to see their former home. "Remember, this is just a scouting mission," Commander Amy Roberts told Steve and his team. "Get close, take pictures, record everything, but don't let them see you. We need to know what we're facing before we make our move." Steve nodded and climbed into his small scout ship along with 5 other enhanced humans. The ship was unlike anything that had existed when Earth was destroyed. It could bend light around itself, fly through solid objects, and move faster than the alien sensors could detect. As Steve's ship left the New Horizon, he felt his heart beating faster. Through the small window, he could see the yellow star that used to warm Earth. It looked the same as it had 500,000 years ago, but everything else had changed. "There," said Lieutenant Karen Price, pointing at a gray and silver planet where Earth should have been. "That's what they did to Our home. Steve stared in shock at the transformed world. Earth had been covered with green forests, blue oceans, and white clouds. Now it looked like a massive machine. Enormous buildings reached up into space like metal mountains. Artificial rings circled the planet, creating bridges between floating cities. Millions of lights twinkled across the surface. They didn't just destroy Earth, Steve whispered. They rebuilt it into something else entirely. The scout ship moved closer, its advanced systems recording everything. Steve could see alien vehicles flying between the giant buildings. Space elevators carried cargo up and down from orbit. The planet buzzed with activity like a huge beehive. "Look at those defense stations," said Sergeant Billy Cooper, studying his instruments. "They've got weapon platforms that could blast apart anything that gets too close. The whole planet is like one giant fortress." Steve's ship flew past massive space stations that orbited around the transformed Earth. Each station was bigger than the largest cities that had existed on the original planet. Through their advanced cameras, they could see different types of aliens walking through the corridors. "Get us recordings of everything," Steve ordered. "Captain Morrison needs to see what we're dealing with." For 3 days, Steve's team stayed hidden near the alien capital world, watching and learning. They saw transport ships arriving from hundreds of different star systems. Each ship carried aliens that looked completely different from each other. Some were tall and thin like walking sticks. Others were round and bounced when they moved. There were aliens made of crystal, aliens covered in fur, and aliens that seemed to be made of liquid metal. When Steve returned to the New Horizon, he brought with him thousands of hours of recordings. Captain Morrison, Commander Roberts, and the senior staff gathered in the main briefing room to see what humanity's former home had become. Dr. Rachel Green, the ship's expert on alien biology, studied the recordings with amazement and disgust. She was a woman in her 40s with red hair and a sharp mind that could understand any living creature. "I count at least 300 different alien species living on the transformed Earth," Rachel said. "Most of them seemed to be there for some kind of big meeting or celebration." The recordings showed alien delegates arriving in fancy ships. They wore expensive clothes and carried ceremonial weapons. Guards escorted them through the massive buildings toward what appeared to be a central meeting place. "It's their grand assembly," said Dr. Lisa Harper's voice from the ship's computer system. "I've been listening to their communications. They're celebrating 500,000 years of what they call galactic peace." Major Tony Williams, the ship's intelligence officer, had been studying the alien communication networks. Tony was a quiet man who could speak dozens of alien languages and understood how their governments worked. "I've been reading their historical records," Tony said. "According to the official Galactic Council history, humans never existed. They claim this planet was always empty when they found it." The room fell silent. Jake Morrison felt his hands clench into fists. "What do you mean we never existed?" Tony pulled up alien text on the main screen. In their official records, they list the original inhabitants of this system as primitive microorganisms. They say they terraformed an empty world to create their capital city. Commander Roberts stood up, her face red with anger. "They wiped us out and then erased us from history, as if we never lived at all." "It gets worse," Tony continued. "I found some classified files buried deep in their security networks. They do have records of humanity, but we're listed as the purged species. The files say we were a dangerous, aggressive race that threatened galactic peace." Dr. Green leaned forward. "What exactly do these classified files say about us?" Tony's expression grew darker. "They claim humans were expanding too quickly through space. They say we were violent and refused to follow galactic law. The official report states that the 3 founding council species, the Zephyrians, the Kalathi, and the Nethrim, had no choice but to eliminate us for the safety of all other life in the galaxy." Jake Morrison studied the images of aliens celebrating on the ruins of his homeworld. "So in their version of history, they're the heroes who saved the galaxy from the evil humans." "The worst part," Tony said, "is that most of the alien species in the council actually believe this story. The younger species that joined later have no idea that humans ever existed as anything more than a cautionary tale." Dr. Harper's voice filled the room. "This changes our mission significantly. We're not just fighting the species that destroyed Earth. We're fighting 500,000 years of lies and propaganda. Steve Patterson had been quiet during the briefing, but now he spoke up. I saw something else during our scouting mission. There are memorial statues all over the planet's surface. But they're not memorials to humans. They're memorials to the brave Council heroes who supposedly saved the galaxy from us. The idea that aliens were celebrating their victory over humanity while standing on Earth's grave filled the room with cold rage. These weren't just enemies anymore. They were enemies who had stolen humanity's story and made themselves the heroes. What about the current Council leadership? Jake asked. Major Williams pulled up profiles of the alien leaders. The Zephyrians are still in charge. Supreme Chancellor Vorthak is the great-great-grandson of the Zephyrian who ordered Earth's destruction. The Calathi Queen Mother Zrix is a direct descendant of the Insect Queen who personally commanded the bombing fleets. The Nethrim collective consciousness includes memory crystals from the original beings who voted to exterminate humanity. Dr. Green shook her head in disgust. So the actual individuals who murdered our species are still alive and still in power. Not just alive, Tony added. They're respected leaders who are praised throughout the galaxy for bringing peace and order to the stars. Jake Morrison looked around the room at his fellow humans. Each face showed the same expression of cold determination that he felt in his own heart. But now there was something else. A purpose beyond simple revenge. This isn't just about getting back at the aliens who destroyed Earth, Jake said. We need to expose the truth. The galaxy needs to know what really happened 500,000 years ago. Commander Roberts nodded. We're not just here to destroy our enemies, we're here to set the record straight. Dr. Harper's voice carried a note of grim satisfaction. I've been analyzing their communication networks. When we reveal ourselves, we can broadcast our message across every system in Council space. Every alien species will hear the truth about what their government did to humanity. Jake stood up and walked to the window that showed the transformed Earth in the distance. Then that's how we begin. We don't start with weapons. We start with truth. We show the galaxy who we really were, what was really done to us, and what we've become in response. He turned back to his officers. Prepare the fleet for the Grand Assembly. It's time to crash their celebration and remind the galaxy that humanity remembers everything. The Grand Assembly of the Galactic Council was the biggest celebration in 500,000 years. Alien ships from 300 different worlds filled the space around the transformed Earth. Each ship carried delegates who had come to celebrate what they called the longest period of peace in galactic history. Inside the massive assembly hall built on what used to be the Pacific Ocean, thousands of alien representatives sat in their assigned seats. The hall was so large that it could be seen from space. Holographic displays showed the faces of speakers to beings sitting miles away from the central stage. Supreme Chancellor Vorthak stood at the main podium. He was a tall Zephyrian with green, scaly skin and yellow eyes that glowed in the dim light. His ancestors had ordered the destruction of Earth, and he wore their victory like a badge of honor. My fellow beings, Vorthak said in his deep, rumbling voice, today we celebrate 500,000 years of galactic peace. 500,000 years since the last great threat to our civilization was eliminated. The crowd of aliens cheered and applauded. Many of them truly believed they were celebrating peace and cooperation. They had no idea their government was built on genocide and lies. High above the planet, hidden by advanced stealth technology, the human fleet waited in the darkness of space. 50 massive ships hung motionless around the transformed Earth. Each ship carried weapons and soldiers that the Galactic Council had never imagined could exist. Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the New Horizon, watching the alien celebration through advanced sensors. Beside him, Commander Amy Roberts checked her weapons systems one final time. Dr. Lisa Harper's consciousness flowed through every human ship, coordinating their attack with perfect precision. All ships report ready, Captain, said Lieutenant. Commander Helen Brooks from the communications station. Helen was a small woman with blonde hair and ice-cold blue eyes. She had been born during the long journey and raised on stories of Earth's destruction. Today, she would help humanity announce its return. Jake took a deep breath and activated the fleet communication system. This is Captain Morrison to all human vessels. For 500,000 years we have waited for this moment. Today we remind the galaxy that humanity never died. Today we take back our birthright. Begin the operation, Jake ordered. The first phase of the attack was invisible to most of the aliens below. Human ships used technology that could pass through solid matter to reach the planet's defense systems. Within seconds, every weapon, platform, shield generator, and sensor array around the transformed Earth went dark. In the Council's military command center, alarms began screaming. Admiral Zerion, a four-armed insectoid Kalathi, stared at his screens in confusion. Every defensive system on the most protected planet in the galaxy had just shut down simultaneously. "What's happening?" Zerion demanded. "How did we lose all our defenses at once?" His technicians frantically worked at their control panels, but nothing responded. The human ships had inserted microscopic machines into every alien system. These machines rewrote the alien computer codes, turning the Council's own technology against them. Commander Helen Brooks smiled as she watched the alien confusion from orbit. "Defense grid is completely disabled, Captain. They can't even send a distress signal. We own their communication networks now." Jake nodded. Phase 2. Let them see us. All around the planet, 50 massive human ships suddenly appeared out of nowhere. The aliens below looked up in terror as enormous vessels materialized in their sky. The ships were unlike anything in Council records. They seemed to bend light around themselves, creating rainbow patterns in space. On the planet's surface, alien civilians pointed at the sky and screamed. Many had never seen military action before. The Galactic Council had told them for centuries that they lived in a time of perfect peace. In the Grand Assembly Hall, Supreme Chancellor Vorthak stopped speaking as emergency alerts flashed throughout the building. His yellow eyes widened as he received reports from his panicked military commanders. "Unknown vessels have appeared in orbit," his aide whispered urgently. "All our defenses are down. We're completely helpless." Before Vorthak could respond, every screen in the assembly hall flickered and changed. Instead of showing the ceremony, they now displayed the face of a human male with brown hair and determined eyes. Jake Morrison looked out at thousands of alien faces through cameras that had been hacked by his people. When he spoke, his words were automatically translated into every language in the galaxy. "Citizens of the Galactic Council," Jake began, his voice carrying across the stunned assembly hall. "My name is Captain Jake Morrison. I am human. I represent the species your government claims never existed." Gasps and shocked murmurs rippled through the crowd of aliens. Many had never heard the word human before. Others remembered it only as a scary story from ancient history. 500,000 years ago, your council demanded that humanity surrender our freedom and become slaves. When we refused, they destroyed our homeworld with orbital bombardment. They murdered 12 billion innocent people. Images appeared on the screen showing Earth as it used to be. Green forests, blue oceans, white clouds, and cities full of life. Then the images changed to show massive alien ships raining fire down on the beautiful world. "Your leaders told you we were violent and dangerous," Jake continued. "The truth is that we were exploring space peacefully when your council decided we were growing too fast. They were afraid of competition, so they chose genocide, supreme." Chancellor Vorthak stepped forward, his scaly face twisted with rage. "Lies! Security! Arrest whoever is broadcasting this." But the security forces found that their weapons would not work. Every piece of technology in the assembly hall was now under human control. The aliens sat helplessly in their seats, forced to watch and listen. Dr. Lisa Harper's voice joined Jake's broadcast, speaking directly to the alien computer networks. Her consciousness flowed through every system on the planet, gathering information that had been classified for 500,000 years. "Here are your own government records," Lisa announced, as classified documents appeared on every screen. Internal memos discussing the human problem, military orders for the complete extermination of our species, victory celebrations after Earth's destruction. The documents were in the original alien languages, written by the ancestors of current council leaders. There was no way to claim they were fake. Young alien delegates stared in horror as they read about the systematic murder of an entire species. Ambassador Krell, a tall, silver-skinned Vanari, stood up in the assembly hall. His species had joined the Council only 50,000 years ago, long after humanity's destruction. "Is this true?" Krell demanded, looking directly at Supreme Chancellor Vorthak. "Did the founding species really commit genocide?" Before Vorthak could answer, more images appeared on the screens. These showed human ships being attacked, human colonies burning, and human families running for their lives as alien soldiers hunted them down. "We were not the aggressors," Jake's voice continued. "We were the victims. And now, after 500,000 years of preparation, we have returned." Major Diana Foster had been waiting for this moment. She led a team of enhanced human soldiers who could move faster than alien eyes could follow. While Jake broadcast his message, Diana's team teleported directly into the assembly hall. The aliens gasped as humans appeared among them like ghosts, made solid. Diana moved through the crowd of delegates, her enhanced body allowing her to walk through their energy shields as if they didn't exist. She reached Supreme Chancellor Vorthak's platform in seconds. The Zephyrian leader tried to run, but Diana moved with superhuman speed. She grabbed him by his scaly throat and lifted him off the ground with one hand. "This," Diana said, her voice carrying throughout the hall, "is Vorthak V, great-great-grandson of Vorthak I, who ordered the extermination of humanity. His family has ruled the Council for 500,000 years on the bones of my ancestors." The alien crowd watched in stunned silence as more human soldiers appeared throughout the hall. Each soldier carried weapons that seemed to glow with inner light. Their movements were too fast and precise to be natural. Queen Mother Zrix of the Kalathi tried to activate her personal defense systems, but they wouldn't respond. The elderly insect queen clicked her mandibles in fear as human soldiers surrounded her throne. "What are you?" she whispered in her clicking language. "What have you become?" Captain Morrison's face appeared larger on the screens as he answered her question. "We are what you made us. 500,000 years of hatred. 500,000 years of evolution. 500,000 years of preparation for this moment." The human fleet above the planet began to move into attack formation. Their ships created patterns in space that hurt to look at directly. Energy. Readings showed power levels that broke alien understanding of physics. "You have two choices," Jake announced to the Assembly and to the galaxy beyond. "You can continue to follow leaders who built their empire on genocide and lies, or you can join us in creating something better." Ambassador Krell was the first to respond. He stood up slowly, his silver face pale with shock and shame. "The Vanari Republic formally withdraws from the Galactic Council," Krell announced. 3 days after humanity revealed itself to the galaxy, the first Council fleet arrived at the edges of what used to be Earth's solar system. Admiral Zerion commanded over 2,000 warships from 60 different star systems. It was the largest military force assembled in galactic history. Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the New Horizon, watching the massive alien fleet approach through advanced sensors. The enemy ships stretched across space like a metal cloud, their weapons charged and ready for battle. "They brought everything they have," said Commander Amy Roberts, studying the tactical displays. 2,000 ships against our 50. They think numbers will give them victory." Jake smiled coldly. "They're about to learn what 500,000 years of preparation can accomplish." The human fleet had spread out across the solar system, using the planets and asteroids as cover. But they weren't hiding. They were setting a trap that would use the Council's own confidence against them. Captain Lisa Bell commanded the human ship called Retribution from her position near Jupiter. She was a woman with dark hair and scars on her face from training accidents during the long journey. Like all humans on the ships, Lisa had been enhanced with technology that made her faster and stronger than any normal person. "This is Captain Bell to all human vessels," Lisa broadcast on secure channels. "Remember, we're not just fighting for revenge anymore. Half the galaxy is watching this battle. We need to show them that humanity fights with honor, even against enemies who showed us none." The first shots of the Galactic War came from the Council fleet. Admiral Zerion ordered his ships to fire everything they had at the human vessels. Thousands of energy beams and missile weapons streaked across space toward the 50 human ships. The aliens expected to see massive explosions as their weapons hit their targets. Instead, they watched in shock as the human ships seemed to absorb the energy attacks and then redirect them back at the Council fleet. Impossible, Admiral Zerion clicked in his insect language. No shields can withstand that much firepower. But the humans weren't using shields. They were using something much more advanced. Dr. Ben Clark's scientists had learned how to bend space itself around their ships. The alien weapons passed right through them without causing any damage. Commander Rick Stone led the human counterattack from his ship near Mars. Rick was a large man with gray hair who had spent decades studying alien military tactics. He knew exactly how Council fleets operated, and he knew their weaknesses. Target their command ships first, Rick ordered his weapons officers. Cut off their communications and watch them fall apart. The human weapons were unlike anything the Council had seen before. Instead of firing energy beams or missiles, they fired concentrated gravity waves that could crush alien ships like tin cans. Other weapons created small black holes that sucked entire squadrons into nothingness. Admiral Zerion watched in horror as his carefully organized fleet began to collapse. His ships couldn't hit the humans, but every human shot destroyed multiple Council vessels. Within an hour, he had lost over half his force. "Retreat," Zerion ordered. "All ships pull back to safe distance." But there was no safe distance. The human ships could teleport instantly from one location to another. They appeared behind retreating Council vessels and destroyed them before the aliens even knew they were there. Captain Roy Bennett commanded a single human ship that faced an entire Council battle group near Neptune. Roy was a quiet man who preferred actions to words. His ship, the Vengeance, had been designed specifically for this kind of fight. The alien battle group consisted of 50 heavy cruisers, each one larger than Roy's ship. They surrounded him and fired everything they had. Roy calmly activated his ship's special weapon system. "Computer, initiate viral warfare protocol," Roy said. Invisible signals spread from the Vengeance to every Council ship in the area. Within seconds, the alien computer systems began turning against their own crews. Weapons fired on Allied ships. Life support systems shut down. Navigation computers sent ships crashing into each other. "What's happening?" screamed the Council battle group commander as his own ship's weapons turned on him. Roy's enhanced mind interfaced directly with the alien computer networks, rewriting their code in real time. To him, their technology was like children's toys. He could make their ships do whatever he wanted. The Battle of Neptune lasted only 20 minutes. When it was over, 50 Council ships floated dead in space while Roy's single vessel remained untouched. News of humanity's devastating victory spread across the galaxy faster than light. On hundreds of worlds, alien populations watched in amazement as their supposedly invincible military was crushed by a species they had been told was extinct. Dr. Chris Moore led scientific teams to Council research facilities throughout the galaxy. Chris was a small woman with brown hair who specialized in alien technology. What she found in the secret laboratories made her sick to her stomach. "Captain Morrison," Chris reported from a hidden facility on the edge of Kalathi space. "You need to see what they've been doing here." The research station orbited a dead planet that showed signs of having once supported life. Inside the facility, Chris found laboratories filled with cages containing creatures from dozens of different species. Many of the prisoners had been experimented on for centuries. They've been conducting biological experiments on captured sentient beings, Chris said, her voice shaking with anger. "Some of these prisoners have been here for thousands of years." The most horrifying discovery came in the deepest level of the facility. Communications officer Mary Clark, a young woman with red hair and pale skin, found a section marked Historical Specimens in the alien language. Inside climate-controlled chambers, Mary discovered the bodies of humans who had been captured during Earth's destruction. The Council scientists had kept them alive for 500,000 years, using them for medical experiments and biological research. "They're barely recognizable as human anymore," Mary reported, tears streaming down her face. The aliens have been torturing our people for 500,000 years. Jake Morrison felt his enhanced heart rate increase as he processed this information. The Council hadn't just committed genocide. They had kept some humans alive specifically to torture them for scientific research. Broadcast everything, Jake ordered. I want every species in the galaxy to see what their government has been doing. Mary's recordings spread across galactic communication networks faster than the Council could stop them. Alien populations watched in horror as the evidence of centuries of torture and experimentation was revealed. On dozens of worlds, alien governments began to collapse as their populations learned the truth about the organization they had trusted. The Altarian Republic declared independence from the Council. The Draconis Federation withdrew their support. Even some of the older Council member species began to question their loyalty. Colonel Nancy Price led rescue operations to free the surviving human prisoners. Nancy was a tough woman with black hair who had trained her entire life for military operations. What she found in the prison facilities challenged even her hardened emotions. We've found over 300 humans still alive, Nancy reported from a prison facility near Zephyrian space. But they've been so changed by the experiments that some of them don't even remember what species they are. The rescued humans had been subjected to genetic modification, surgical alteration, and psychological torture for centuries. Many had lost the ability to speak. Others had been physically changed so much that they looked more alien than human. Dr. Rachel Green worked frantically to help the rescued prisoners, but the damage was extensive. We can heal their bodies with our advanced medical technology, Rachel said, but their minds may never fully recover from what was done to them. The rescue operations provided even more evidence of Council atrocities. Each freed prisoner was living proof of the systematic cruelty that the galactic government had hidden for centuries. Meanwhile, the Council's remaining military forces were falling apart. Fleet Admiral Zarian had lost over 70% of his ships in failed attempts to stop the human advance. Every battle ended the same way: total Council defeat with minimal human losses. They're not fighting like any species we've encountered before, Zarian reported to the Council leadership. Their technology is so advanced that our weapons are useless. Worse, they can turn our own ships against us. Supreme Chancellor Vorthak, still imprisoned by human forces, watched his empire crumble from his cell. How is this possible? He demanded of his human guards. You were primitives when we destroyed your world. How did you become so powerful? Major Diana Foster, who had captured Vorthak personally, smiled at the alien leader. You gave us 500,000 years to think about what you did to us. 500,000 years to prepare. Did you really think we would waste that time? The war was spreading beyond military action. On Council worlds throughout the galaxy, alien populations were rising up against their governments. Many species that had joined the Council believing in its peaceful mission now demanded justice for the crimes committed in their name. The Vanari Republic formed an alliance with humanity, offering their ships and soldiers to help overthrow the Council. The final battle for humanity's homeworld began at dawn on what the aliens called Victory Day. It was the anniversary of Earth's destruction 500,000 years ago. The Council had planned to celebrate their ancient triumph, but instead, they found themselves fighting for their lives. Captain Jake Morrison led the largest human fleet ever assembled toward the transformed Earth. 200 human ships moved through space like a school of metal fish, their advanced hulls shimmering with energy that bent light around them. Each ship carried enhanced humans who had trained their entire lives for this moment. All ships, this is Captain Morrison, Jake broadcast to his fleet. Today we take back what was stolen from us. Today we return home. The defense of the alien capital was desperate and chaotic. Supreme Chancellor Vorthak had escaped from human custody during a prisoner transfer, and he now commanded the Council's last military forces from a massive fortress built on what used to be North America. Fight to the death, Vorthak screamed at his remaining commanders. If we lose this world, we lose everything. But many Council species had already abandoned the fight. The Vanari Republic ships fought alongside humans. The Altarian Federation provided support vessels. Even some Kalathi colonies had rebelled against their queen and joined the human cause. General Kevin Adams commanded the ground assault on the planet's surface. Kevin was a large man with scars across his face from training battles during the long journey. He had studied every inch of the transformed Earth through satellite images, planning this attack for decades. "Remember," Kevin told his troops as they prepared to land, "there are innocent civilians down there. Many aliens had nothing to do with what happened to our ancestors. We fight with honor." The human landing craft descended through the planet's atmosphere like falling stars. Each craft carried soldiers who moved faster than normal humans and could interface directly with any technology they encountered. They wore armor that could withstand weapons that would destroy buildings. Dr. Gary Thompson, the fleet's historian, was among the first humans to set foot on Earth in 500,000 years. Gary was an elderly man who had spent his life studying old records of what the planet used to look like. His enhanced eyes filled with tears as he stepped onto the metal surface that covered his ancestral home. "I'm standing where my ancestors walked," Gary whispered into his communicator. "Somewhere beneath all this alien construction, Earth still exists." The human soldiers moved through the alien city with devastating effectiveness. Their weapons could cut through any material the Council had built. Their enhanced bodies allowed them to jump between buildings and run up vertical walls. To the alien defenders, the humans seemed like ghosts that could appear anywhere. Colonel Sarah White led a team of specialists whose job was to find and preserve any remnants of original Earth that might still exist beneath the alien construction. Sarah was a woman with blonde hair and green eyes who had studied archaeology during the long journey. "Sensors are detecting open spaces under the city," Sarah reported as her team used advanced equipment to scan through layers of alien building materials. "There are chambers down there that might be intact." What Sarah's team found beneath the alien metropolis amazed even the enhanced humans. The Council builders had not completely destroyed Earth's surface. Instead, they had built their city on top of it, preserving large sections of the original planet like museums. "Captain Morrison, you need to see this," Sarah called excitedly. "We found Central Park in New York. It's been preserved exactly as it was when Earth was destroyed." Deep beneath the alien structures, Sarah's team discovered entire neighborhoods that had been encased in protective barriers when the bombardment began. Streets, buildings, even vehicles from ancient Earth sat waiting in climate-controlled chambers like time capsules. But the most important discovery came when they reached what used to be the Smithsonian Institution. The museum's underground storage areas contained millions of items from human history, including DNA samples from extinct Earth animals and plants. "We can bring them back," Dr. Rachel Green said with wonder as she examined the genetic material. "We can restore the forests, the oceans, all the life that existed on Earth before the attack." Meanwhile, the battle above ground continued to rage. The Council's last stronghold was the massive governmental complex built over what used to be the Pacific Ocean. Here, the remaining leaders of the three founding species had gathered for their final stand. Queen Mother Zurix of the Kalati commanded, her personal guard from a throne room filled with weapons stolen from dozens of conquered species. The ancient insect queen clicked her mandibles in fury as human soldiers approached her position. "You think you have won," Zurich said in her clicking language as Major Diana Foster entered the throne room. "But we have prepared one final gift for you and your allies." Diana moved with superhuman speed, disarming the queen's guards before they could react. But Zrix was not trying to fight. She was trying to activate a device that would destroy not just Earth, but every star system within 100 light years. "The extinction protocol," Zrix explained as Diana grabbed her by the throat. "If we cannot rule the galaxy, then no one will. Every world that betrayed us will burn." Diana's enhanced mind interfaced with the alien technology, trying to stop the activation sequence. But the device had been designed by 3 different species working together. It required simultaneous deactivation codes from all 3 founding Council leaders. "Captain Morrison," Diana called on her communicator, "we have a problem. They're trying to trigger a weapon that will sterilize hundreds of star systems. I need Supreme Chancellor Vorthak and the Nethrim Collective leaders captured alive, or we can't stop it." The race to capture the remaining Council leaders alive became desperate. Human teams spread across the alien complex, fighting through layers of defense systems while trying not to kill their targets. Commander Rick Stone found Supreme Chancellor Vorthak in a command bunker deep beneath the ocean floor. The Zephyrian leader was covered in his own green blood from battle wounds, but he was still alive and still defiant. "You may capture me," Vorthak said as Rick's soldiers surrounded him. "But you cannot stop what we have started. The galaxy will burn before it bows to human rule." Captain Lisa Bell located the Nethrim collective leaders in a crystalline chamber that existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously. The crystal beings were trying to merge their consciousness with the extinction weapon's control system. "If we die, the weapon activates automatically," the Nethrim beings said in their musical voices. "Choose carefully, humans. Save us and save the galaxy, or let us die and watch everything burn." Jake Morrison made the decision that would define humanity's future. Standing in the main command center of the alien capital, surrounded by the bodies of his ancestors' murderers, he chose mercy over revenge. "Take them alive," Jake ordered. "All of them. We'll stop their weapon, but we won't become like them." With all three council leaders captured, human technicians worked frantically to deactivate the extinction device. Dr. Ben Clark's scientific team interfaced their enhanced minds with the alien technology, rewriting its programming just seconds before the weapon would have fired. "Extinction protocol deactivated," Dr. Clark reported with relief. "The galaxy is safe." But stopping the weapon was only the beginning. Now humanity faced the challenge of rebuilding not just Earth, but galactic civilization itself. The trials of the council leaders began immediately, broadcast across the galaxy for all species to witness. Jake Morrison presided over the proceedings, but representatives from dozens of alien species served as judges alongside humans. "You are charged with genocide, slavery, torture, and crimes against sapient life," Jake announced as the three leaders stood before the galactic court. "How do you plead?" "We did what was necessary for galactic peace," Vorthak replied defiantly. "History will vindicate us." But history was being rewritten by the truth. Evidence of council atrocities filled the court proceedings. The genetic experiments, the slave labor camps, the systematic extermination of dozens of species that had refused to submit to council rule. The verdicts were unanimous. All three leaders were found guilty and sentenced to life imprisonment on a prison world where they would spend their remaining years helping to restore the civilizations they had destroyed. More importantly, the trials established new laws for galactic government. No single species could hold dominant power. All member worlds would have equal representation. Military action could only be taken with overwhelming consent from member species. The restoration of Earth took 20 years, but those years transformed the planet from an alien metropolis back into a living world. Using the preserved genetic material, human scientists brought back extinct species and replanted the forests that had been destroyed. Colonel Sarah White became the first director of Earth restoration. Under her guidance, teams of humans and aliens worked together to remove the artificial structures and return the planet to its natural state. "We're not just rebuilding Earth," Sarah explained to visiting delegations. "We're building something better than what existed before. A world where multiple species can live together in peace."